about achievement. They called you when they got you to believe it. Thumb and finger held to their foreheads in an L shape. Trapped in a capitalist hellscape. Let's fight back and have some talks about class and the massive cost of the disastrous plots of fascists and Nazis, fat cats and fox. It's 1,000 natural shocks. A Bad with Money podcast.
Hello and welcome to 1,000 Natural Shocks, a Bad with Money podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Dunn, and we have Annie Segarra back with us. Do you want to remind my audience who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, my name is Annie Segarra. I work online under the screen name Annie Eleni on Instagram and other socials as a content creator, storyteller, advocate, activist. I'm a multiply marginalized person, Latina, queer. Oh my God, I'm pressing all the buttons. Disabled, very, very disabled with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and a part-time wheelchair user. And yeah, I like to talk about stuff based off my observations from an intersectional lens and hopefully let people in on some things that they didn't know about before.
So we did a part one, but for part two, we decided we wanted to get into the Medicaid of it all. So can we start there and what's been going on with that?
Well, there's been like a proposed Medicaid cut of about, what was that, $1 trillion cuts, meaning that people are going to get kicked off their Medicaid. And without Medicaid, a lot of people, that's a death sentence for them. Basically, disability budgets, we've always been facing cuts. There's always been a fight to like protect the funds that protect disabled people and keep them in our communities and integrated amongst our communities specifically. With Medicaid, along with Medicare, along with SSI, SSDI, they're all getting cut. I know that myself, any assistance that I've gotten, it's been personally under review the last month or so, and I've been seeing a lot online that a lot of people really randomly, all of us at the same time, have gotten their disabilities under review, especially like people with permanent disabilities like myself. Even if they've been disabled since birth, they are kind of like, you need to prove to us that you're still disabled and that you still need our assistance in whatever way that is. And if I may like touch on that a little bit, it's really hard, especially if you don't feel financially secure to like hire a disability lawyer and stuff like that, to have the right verbiage that they need you to have. And they seem to want a lot of vulnerability from you, especially if you are doing the review interviews yourself. For me, I've got a lot of trouble like being vulnerable and saying like the things that I have difficulty with because of my disabilities. And when it comes to the government and accessing the assistance you need or the care that you need, they need your trauma. They need your trauma. They need to know what are the things you cannot do, what are the things you can do, but what does it cost you? For example, yes, I can wash a few dishes, but then I get a flare up. I get a flare up of pain, or I might risk fainting, or I cannot use my hands for the rest of the day. They need to know everything that it costs you. And sometimes I know for myself, they'll ask you questions like, what are your capacities? And your mind goes blank. I know one of the questions they ask you, it sounds like a small talk question, and they'll say, so what do you do all day? And your expression, I'm like, you know that we're gonna like try to say like the best parts of our day. You're like, oh, like you go, oh, well, routine stuff. I try to make myself some food, maybe do this stuff, whatever. And it's not a small talk question. Don't get tricked by that. They want to know if you are navigating symptoms on a daily basis and how that interferes with your day. And when you have like a lot of like disability acceptance, when you've found your ways to adapt, those kinds of things really can go over your head. For example, I might be able to put away laundry, but I have to use a rolling stool in my room. My room is too small for my wheelchair, so I have to use a little rolling stool to get from where I have been folding stuff over to the drawer and back, because it's too much to like get up and down for me. And being accustomed to daily life like that, it doesn't like occur to me that that's not something that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
You're isolated often in your disabled experience. So there's stuff like that. There's stuff like, how long can you do things? How long can you stand up? How long can you do things? And I think for the most part, because, you know, our government is what it is, they are looking for any little windows of where you can do things or where you are capable of labor, and try to use that to say, well, you said you're capable of driving, right? Well, then you can work for Uber. Da, da, da. Like they will look for any window of like what you can do to tell you, well, you don't need us then. You can just
Mm.
you can just do something like this. It's very tricky stuff. These programs, of course, often keep people in poverty by design. I think in 2026, the maximum federal SSI payment is still under like $1,000 a month. And these are people who they are not typically allowed to work. So that is their entire income is less than $1,000 per month. And I believe that you still have to pay taxes on that too, because generally, especially with SSI versus SSDI, which is a little different, you cannot have more than $2,000 worth of assets without risking those benefits. That means, right, disabled people who are in need of this kind of assistance can lose support for saving money, for getting married, for receiving gifts, any kind of attempt at building stability for themselves. Meanwhile, Medicaid funds many of the services that allow people to like stay alive in their communities. With those cuts, we're talking about like losing attendance, medications, transportation, treatment, independence, the ability to stay at home. And that's kind of segues us into like the Olmstead stuff, because that's staying home versus being institutionalized, which that's something that happened just this past week. I can't believe how long this week has felt. So first, I think I need to like rewind and like explain what the Olmstead decision is.
Yeah, please.
So in June of 1999, the Supreme Court ruled in the Olmstead versus LC case that disabled people have the right to receive care in, quote, the most integrated setting appropriate to their needs. So that means disabled people have the right to live in their communities instead of being forced into institutions whenever possible. The case involved two women from Georgia, Lois Curtis and Elaine Wilson, who were kept institutionalized even after doctors said that they could safely live in their communities with support. And the Supreme Court ruled that unnecessary institutionalization is discrimination under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So because of Olmstead, disabled people can receive home care, children can stay with their families, people can live in apartments instead of nursing homes, people can attend school in their communities, and disabled people are not automatically segregated from society. And I say that specifically automatically because there's still an element of that in a lot of ways. I remember in elementary school feeling very segregated from like the disabled kids versus the quote unquote normal kids. My sister was part of the special education program, and they had to sit at different tables at lunchtime. They had their own separate classrooms, and while they're still in the same school, the separation was still very visible. But by law, at least they're in the same school. For many disabled people, Olmstead is the civil rights equivalent to like Brown versus Board of Education. Like that's how important it has been. And in this past week, the DOJ released a memo arguing that Olmstead and disability law have been interpreted too broadly for decades already. Like that's kind of a scary thing. The memo argues that states are not actually required to provide community-based services in the way that courts and advocates have long understood that. Legal experts and disability advocates say that this interpretation directly threatens the integration mandate that has protected disabled people for decades. The American Association of People with Disabilities has warned that the memo could open the door to states, quote, warehousing people with disabilities out of sight and out of mind in institutions. I do want to be clear that like the memo does not overturn Olmstead by itself. It is not a Supreme Court ruling, but it tells us how this administration intends to interpret and enforce the disability law moving forward. Because if the DOJ stops aggressively enforcing integration rights, then the states can slash home and community-based services. They can expand institutional systems, reduce support for independent living, and leave disabled people with fewer and fewer choices. And this connects with like a bunch of different things. For one being like the criminalization of homelessness. Disabled people are like hugely overrepresented among unhoused populations in the United States. And at the same time, we've been watching this for a while, cities banning camping and police sweeping encampments. States are criminalizing sleeping outside, and there's forced psychiatric holds continuing to increase. Public space itself is becoming more hostile to like poor and disabled people. With like trying to get people not to sleep on benches and things, and it's messing with two communities at once, right? Which is the unhoused communities and the disabled communities. When disability services are cut and while homelessness is criminalized, disabled people get pushed into institutions and jails and forced treatment systems. I think that's why people, including myself, are really overwhelmed and stressed out by this. It touches just on so many things. So I just said how like it very much touches on the criminalization of homelessness. And I also think about the connection with trying to call being transgender a mental illness.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a lot of times kids, right? And how easy this is already possible, but I'm saying that releasing this memo and showing what their intentions are, they are showing the opportunity to like continue to expand this. I'm personally worried that this memo being very like pro institution and saying states, you don't have to take care of your disabled people. You don't have to supply them anything. You don't have to take care of them is already a scary thing to say. But it's very easy to imagine that they would do the same thing that they're doing with ICE detention centers, which is privatizing them and using them for profit. It is kind of easy to envision the worst case scenario. Oh my gosh, it involves like trans people in mind. It involves women and feminism at such a surface level because women have been forced into institutions all the time for being deemed mentally ill, and mental illness can come from anything. Being too horny, being unwilling to have sex, or to cover up crimes, calling a woman crazy because she said that someone committed a crime against her. There's just a lot that can go wrong.
Who would decide who goes into the mental institutions?
I mean, my simple answer to that is people with money. And people with money can decide that already. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's something that does happen. And to tell the states that, oh, well, you're not required to make sure that disabled people remain integrated in their communities, then it kind of leaves them with very little options at the end of the day. I think about it in terms of financial access with healthcare. And we even discussed that a little in our last episode together, where this government very subtly kills disabled people all the time.
Yeah.
By forcing them into poverty and then denying them healthcare because of lack of financial access. If this becomes normalized to think about it this way and to say, well, it's not really a requirement for states to take care of disabled people, and while cuts continue to happen, then a person could lose everything. I know I have at least a couple of times put myself in tons of medical debt, like put my medical treatments and appointments, procedures all on credit cards, and put myself in medical debt. And if like you don't have family or anybody to help support you, then you're gonna hit like a rock bottom financially at some point. And then if you go to the state for help and they say we're not required to help you, what are your options then? Your options are institution or die. That's kind of like where it ends up being. I think that a lot of people were responding to this memo and this news with an accusation of fear mongering, like, oh, they're not going to force people
I hate that.
into institutions. For one thing, I want to ask, like, have you not been witnessing how ICE has already been rounding up people and forcing them into abusive, neglectful detention centers? So it's already happening. That's one thing. And then, as I mentioned, this is an opportunity for them to do exactly what they're doing with ICE detention centers. They're going to be privatized and profiting off disabled people, disabled children, our neighbors, our families, and then just sit in these places to be neglected, abused, or worse. And that's based off of what we're seeing already.
Yeah, well, they can say you're breaking the law and then make up laws. Loitering or peeing outside, whatever it is, they make that illegal and then they arrest you.
Yeah.
You know, the Bureau of Prisons put out a memo or a policy about trans people in jail. and they detransition you. They treat it as a psychiatric problem, and they taper you off your medication or just take you off your hormones, point blank. They put you in psychiatric therapy. They take away makeup. They take away wigs. They take away any social accoutrement that you could have, which is wild because cis women are allowed to have makeup. They put you in a prison with your sex assigned at birth, which we know through much testimony that this is a recipe for rape and sexual assault. All sorts of treating of transgender people as a medical condition versus a psychiatric condition. It is conversion therapy. People often say, well, don't break the law, but the law changes and they could suddenly make something that you do illegal. There you go. Right. I think in LA specifically, a lot of us are concerned about the Olympics because there is this push to make LA perfect for the Olympics. What are they going to do with the homeless people in that time? Our conclusion is they'll sweep them, they'll either institutionalize them, or they will ship them to another city, California City, where CoreCivic already runs a prison, Adelanto, where Geo Group runs a prison, that are being used as ICE detention centers. The infrastructure is already there. So you take those people, you say, we're going to help them. You move them to another city, to a concentration camp in another city that is ill-equipped to handle that, barely equipped to handle the ICE detention, now handling this type of thing where people absolutely need specific medical care. And the goal is to make LA look spick and span for the Olympics. You're not helping anyone. You're not getting them into situations where they can work, learn skills, benefit. You're just removing them from the public eye because you gross.
Yeah, that's very much how it feels for both these communities, for both unhoused and disabled communities. There's a social hierarchical ick of like even seeing disabled people or unhoused people in daily life, which ouch, doesn't feel great. But I felt it. And that's another thing we touched a little bit about, like my experience with being able to see how I'm treated and perceived when I am able passing for like short periods of time versus while I'm using my mobility aid, while I'm using my wheelchair. It's very like stark. It's abundantly clear to me that like when I use it, and I get so nervous sometimes saying that because people want to play the psychology game, like, well, you're doing it to yourself, your self-esteem is lower. I'm like, I promise I promise that I'm not thinking about my chair the entire time that I'm in it.
Oh, I know,
but I feel the difference. I feel how people look at me differently and talk to me differently.
They don't want you there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a reminder that this could happen to them. I don't know what it is, but they just don't want you as part of it. I think also because they don't want to think about, well, if I'm walking around and I need to go up the stairs and you can't follow me, what do I do? And it's like, fucking relax. This is to do with unhoused people. I went to a comedy show last night, already a mistake. And there was a stand-up who, it's a liberal show. It's a liberal, later she describes herself as liberal, white woman. And one of her jokes was talking about unhoused people. And she said, well, I ran into 2 homeless guys in my neighborhood. I assume they're both homeless. It's not like you often see one person who's homeless and one person who's regular.
What?
And then she said, we're supposed to call them unhoused now, but none of them are here. So, and I was like, oh, you don't know anything.
Wow.
And then would self-describe as liberal. It was interesting because it was like I felt like an anthropologist going into like white liberal spaces and being like, oh yeah, is that like almost checking in? Is this what we're still doing? It is? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting if someone there had been like, I'm unhoused. I don't look like it, but anybody here could be. So actually, fuck you.
Yeah.
Even in liberal spaces, maybe especially in liberal spaces, turning a blind eye, not giving a fuck is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was watching some videos from a homeless person that I follow on Instagram and was saying the simple acknowledgement on the street. Hey, how are you? Just like isn't happening.
Right.
The same wishing that the person was not there
Yeah.
is a Venn diagram that is probably a circle. So that's what I think it's going to be with the institutionalization. You already don't look at these people or care.
Yeah.
So there's all this stuff about for disabled people, for homeless people. Well, this is helping them. They don't know. They don't know what would help them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to tell them what would help them
Mm-hmm.
instead of listening to what would actually help them.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're describing the very like first layer of eugenics in itself.
Exactly.
Being able to dehumanize these communities.
Under the guise of we're helping them.
Yeah. You were describing that feeling of like the sort of invisibility because people don't want to make eye contact with you, etc. Like when you're either visibly disabled or unhoused, it could go a couple different ways, to be honest. Like either people get really awkward and like want to make sure that there's no way that you're inviting an interaction with these people, and secondly, a facial expression of pity, like, oh, it's so nice that you're still kicking, still here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that that's a similarity that can be felt in like both communities. Another reason why I've always really held up the importance of things like media representation and diverse storytelling is because if there's more of that, then there's a better chance that that kind of dehumanization is a little harder to do, because if you are connected with diverse stories and diverse communities of people, it's harder to deny that they are actually human beings.
That's what I was thinking. I was just like, does this woman, she doesn't know anyone. My thought when she was saying that stuff was, you haven't talked to enough. Did you even talk to people? Who do you talk to? Like, do you talk to anyone that doesn't look like you? That's crazy. But there'll be less and less opportunity to, even though they are disinterested, because the concept is these people are almost like clogging up the city. When Spencer Pratt was running for mayor of Los Angeles, his big thing was to show, look at all these homeless people in your kid can't go out and play. That was like a big part of it. It was just I think a lot of liberal people think with these institutionalized ideas, this is going to help them. This will be good for them. We'll get them off the streets. This will be good for them. But you have to be real with yourself and admit that all it is you don't want to see them. Because once they're in there, are you going to advocate for how they're being treated? Are you going to look? Are you going to care? Are you going to follow up? Are you going to be like, hey, what are the conditions in there? No.
It does bring to mind for me like a very Twilight Zone feeling or a Black Mirror feeling. Specifically, there was an episode of Black Mirror where you could be blocked if you were a criminal. Like everybody in the future has a kind of like neurological implant.
Oh.
And so, for example, if you have been put on a watch list or a criminals list, you will turn into a red silhouette in the eyes of everybody else. So they cannot hear you. They cannot communicate with you. They cannot see your face. They just see like a red silhouette.
Creepy.
Everybody will, avoid you and be like, oh, that's one of those red silhouettes. Let me like make sure I keep my distance.
I love Black Mirror because it's like, what if this was your experience? And oftentimes you're like, yeah, what if?
Yeah.
It's like my friend Drew Gregory wrote something about this movie that's coming out called One Night Only. That is about, it's just like a purge, like dystopian future where single people are only allowed to have sex one night a year. And Drew was like, does Lawrence v. Texas exist in this universe? It's a movie about straight people. And it was like, yeah, what if having sex with each other was illegal? That'd be so wild. What if, I remember
Oh my
God
gosh.
bless Kristen Stewart, but I think before she was out, there was a film that she did. I don't remember what it's called, but it was like about how you're not allowed, like sex and dating is illegal in the future.
Hmm.
And I think the tagline was like, "What if love was illegal?" And I remember being like,
Oh,
"Yes, what if?"
damn.
Disabled people can't get married or they lose their benefits. But yeah, what if?
Yeah, that is very much what it's like to watch like dystopian media as a marginalized person. You're like, I mean, dystopian future, that already happened.
What if people judged you based on you looking red? Yeah, what if?
Yeah.
I can't do everything around here. Deadlines are slipping. I can't just do it all on my own. I need to hire someone. I needed an editor. And I was scrounging. How am I going to find an editor? It was a chaotic mess over here. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. I have personally used Indeed for years. I actually have been hired for 2 jobs off of Indeed. I was able to match my skills with jobs in my area. The only 2 times that I have been hired without any sort of in with the company was through Indeed. So I was pretty stoked to find the people I needed for this podcast and also to know that I could do that on a place where I have been hired. And if you're looking to hire someone, let's say you're the job looking to hire me, you can use Indeed sponsored jobs as a boost whenever you need to find quality talent. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. That's cuckoo bananas. And so speaking as someone who has been on both sides of the hiring spectrum, Indeed has helped me in real life spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Can you talk a bit about what people are getting with Medicare and Medicaid? Because I see a lot of videos of even like Trumpers changing their minds because Medicaid is taken away or like they're like, oh, I have a disabled child. Now I can't get any benefits for them. I voted for Trump. Now I regret it.
Yeah, Medicaid funds a lot of very specific and very necessary care that people need. They fund at-home care slash assistance. Everything I was listening before, the medical support for disabled children, treatments, procedures. They are able to provide equipment that is needed at home. All of these things in order to be able to survive a medical condition or disability at home. I mean, it would probably take me forever to like list like every single thing, but yeah, I think that a lot of parents of disabled children are really scared right now, both of like the budget cuts of Medicaid and any kind of social services to assist with disabled folks. It's a vicious cycle of there's not a lot of money when you have disabilities for the most part. I know that there's, handfuls of disabled people who have been able to become wealthy, but that is really an outlier, an exception to the rule. It's not really what happens. Most disabled people do live in poverty in this country. And then in order to get the care that they need, if they are not receiving assistance from the government, they are not left with very many choices. They maybe have to crowdfund for like healthcare, for their needs. I know that even myself, before I was able to get any kind of assistance, I was stuck in my bed for like at least a year or 2 years because I couldn't afford a power wheelchair and I couldn't use my manual one anymore. And I was trying to crowdfund for a wheelchair to be able to leave the house. With something like Medicaid assistance in that way, I hopefully would have been able to get it a lot faster, but instead I had to rely on community and crowdfund in order to get it. Otherwise, I would have just stayed stuck in my bed for who knows how much longer, for like how many more years, because I was not able to get out on my own. My Ehlers-Danlos had worsened in my shoulders. So I could no longer push myself.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, I try to be an independent person, and I didn't have anybody. I didn't like even if that wasn't in my personality, I didn't have anyone who could just stay by my side and push me in a wheelchair the entire time that I was out.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to be able to leave my house, I needed to get a power chair,
Mm-hmm.
and that out of pocket costs a lot of money. But those are my only options without government assistance. So like I can also relate to like the freaking stay at home limbo of not having what you need to live your life independently or live your life outside of your home at all without help. It's a bit of a hard topic because it does all of it, put me in the mindset of eugenics, of this idea of like
Earn a living, contribute to society.
we're seen as undesirables,
Yeah.
and that language is very might like ring bells to people, I hope, because I think a lot of people don't know, so I'll mention it, that like a lot of the first people to die in the Holocaust were disabled people through, is it pronouncing it correct to say Action T4? Or is it with like a German accent or something? Aktion
Probably.
T4, the Nazi program that targeted disabled people for mass murder. And they did find out who was disabled, who are the disabled children in the neighborhood, pull them out of their homes and take them to camps and slash murder them, right?
Yeah, for their own good. I mean, we already do it with troubled teen camps.
Mm,
It is very easy to convince parents that this will be for the children's own good.
hmm
And then who cares what happens to them when or the parents have no idea. Or even with troubled teen, we know that they say, oh yeah, there was an accident, they died. No, they
Yeah.
did. No, there wasn't.
Right. They were pretty blunt about it. They're like,
Oh yeah.
disabled people should just die because they are burdens on society, and the government taking care of them is too expensive.
Yeah, doing it first to disabled and mentally ill people, that's the canary in the coal mine, but nobody listens to it.
And about like, this the supremacy of the Aryan race of like, disabled people are genetically defective and their
Mhm.
life unworthy of life. And my God, I see it. I see it. I see it. I see it all the time. And I'm seeing it in comment sections so much. People that are like pro institutionalizing disabled people who like look at disabled people, whether it's a physical disability like a wheelchair user or a cognitive one, somebody who's like nonverbal, uses a device to talk
Mhm.
or whatever. A very common thing to reply to that site is, I would kill myself if I were that person.
Oh my God.
Because that is not a life worth living. For me, to just back on what I was saying about like media representation, diverse storytelling, I'm like, you're talking about stuff you have no idea. You have no idea. You do not know these people to say that you think like, that you think their life is not worth living
Mhm.
just because you have a different experience and you have some privilege. I've told a lot of people, I've had people say that to my face about like my physical conditions and how difficult a lot of things are for me. Cutting my own food sometimes is very hard for me because my hands are too hypermobile and they're too weak to like grip the silverware the right way, or
Mhm.
silverware, pens and pencils, it doesn't matter. Like I have a hard time with like gripping things. I have said to my face like it's a compliment, oh, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would kill myself if I were you. I'm like, damn.
You could become me at any second. I lost the ability to use my hands the way that I could before in 2024 maybe, and that was, I just like woke up and that was what was happening.
And losing your hands is a really
Rough
tough
one.
thing. It's a really hard adjustment. I remember I wrote, I'm gonna make fun of myself, a little emo poem about it on YouTube about like losing my hands.
Yeah, you never realize how much your hands are used for.
It's a big like grief process, and I will acknowledge that. Transitioning from like non-disabled to disabled, or from disabled to additionally disabled, it's a big grief process. I get it, to like adapt to a new way of life that you didn't choose for yourself, that just kind of happened to you.
You messaged me when I was posting about it,
Mm-hmm.
which was really lovely.
Mm.
But I wasn't ready to accept it because people were messaging me, I think, who had been disabled longer. And I was like, no, I don't need, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's also I want to say that there's a tax to it beyond, which is I drop stuff. I hope like that. Oh no, I'm on my way out the door. Now this mug is broken.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving slower, which is a tax. It is taking longer than they did before. And that is annoying to people.
Oh.
It's annoying to me, but it's annoying to people because I want to be able to move at the same pace, but I can't. It's going to take me a second to open the thing.
Yeah.
Like they've opened, this is like a whatever example, but like they've already opened the candy and we're sitting. It's going to take me a second. And then I yell, my hands don't work.
Oh.
It's a thing that I do to make it funny.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, to sort of lighten the mood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad. I also feel bad because my dog's food, you have to open it like, I'm doing the gesture where you tear it apart. You open it like a bag of chips.
Yeah.
And he's waiting for his food. He's like watching me struggle.
Do you have like adaptable scissors or something?
Yeah, I have to get some stuff, but it is super funny because he's like, he doesn't care. He's like, sir, this is taking longer than I am used to. And I'm very patiently watching you open this. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, you're a dog, you don't get it.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck?
I mean, it forces us to be creative, like,
Yeah.
and come up with solutions. I'm trying to do some physical therapy right now to like align the bottom half of my body. The way I describe Ehlers-Danlos to people often is that I'm basically a marionette. Like I have strings for joints all over the place, and that's literally like everywhere in my fingers, my shoulders, my elbows, my hips, my knees, my feet. Everything is a floppy held together by a string on a marionette. And so they're trying to like teach me how to engage certain muscles that have been asleep for so long to maintain my body in like the right way, whatever, like almost like normal way.
Yeah.
I realized that my whole life I've been unconsciously adapting to my weaknesses. And when I do try to stand up, I'm doing it wrong. Like my hips are like almost like I don't know what this pose is, but like if you put your knees together and you're
like Tyra Banks model.
Yeah, like I'm walking around on this planet or trying to with like my knees together so that I don't fall down. And and I have to relearn how to walk if I want to try. I mean to say that as an example of like when our bodies find things difficult to do, it tends to try to compensate. It tends to try to figure out other options.
And then you forget about it.
Yeah.
You forget.
And that's what I was saying earlier about too, about like being asked about how you accommodate yourself. You're like, I forgot that this was an accommodation. I thought this is just like how I do things.
You forget so quickly. I'm like, that's always how I open doorknobs. What are you talking about? You just forget so fast.
To the attitude of, I would kill myself if I were you. I'm like, you don't know anything. You don't know anything because so many of us were not necessarily born with disabilities or understood ourselves to be disabled and don't feel this way. Don't feel like our lives are not worth living. Don't feel like we're not human. That's all a projection of like what you think about disabilities.
You'd adapt. You'd adapt.
Yeah, that is my biggest thing. I think that when I was doing YouTube consistently, I'm not so much anymore. I got autistically really burnt out with like the amount of social masking that's necessary to like film stuff. I kind of want to get back into it, but I was really burnt out for a while. But when I was doing YouTube consistently, I was moving through grief process of adjusting to my life with new disabilities and understanding my disabled identity because technically I was born with my disabilities, but I had a health decline in my early 20s. And I've been saying, adapting my whole life without really realizing it.
Right.
Not realizing all the ways that I have been helping myself for things that other people don't find as difficult as I do. I've been playing life on hard and not even realizing it.
Yeah.
I wanted so badly, and I succeeded in a few cases where people were able to tell me that this is a grieving process, but I don't see it as something that is the end of my life or anything.
Yeah.
And there's always ways to adapt to things, and I'm still me, and just this journey of life, now I have to like do things a little different. I had one viewer once tell me that the content that I was creating, they were watching it before they themselves identified as disabled or understood themselves as disabled, and that because they had seen that process, that their journey into disability went a lot smoother.
Perfect.
That they did not fear, I'm starting to lose the ability to do this thing, because I've seen other disabled people like talk about this online. I'm not scared. I know that I can adapt.
I feel that way about you. Feel that way about the way that the podcaster Michael Hobbs talks about not using his hands or losing ability with his hands. I think that representation, and whether he knows he's doing it and you do know you're doing it, has been immensely helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, do you want to tell my audience where to find you?
Yes. I am at the username Annie Elaney on most things, Instagram and YouTube, and under my name Annie Segarra on Facebook. And I'll keep on kicking and keep trying to be myself in this space and
do the work that you do
and show you guys what I got.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to 1,000 Natural Shocks, a Bad with Money podcast. This is a noted bisexual production, edited by Allie Mims. Logo art by Dakota Becker. If you like the show, please consider subscribing to the Substack, 1000naturalshocks.substack.com. The Substack has episodes of this show ad-free and also videos and also my original writing. It would mean so much to me if you would subscribe, even as a free subscriber, but a paid subscriber really allows me to keep doing this work, and I can't do it without you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, love you. Bye.